Hello, and welcome to a dignified episode of We Only Look Thin. I am your host, Katherine Weigel, and I have lost 155 pounds, and with me is the dignified Donald Weigel.
Yes, I'm so dignified.
Whoa.
That's my dignified voice, everyone.
How much weight have you lost?
I have lost, let's just call it 100 pounds.
Let's say that. That sounds
yeah,
good.
I don't know. Did it sound weird if I say like 104 or 103?
It's a little specific.
It's a
I
little
feel like
specific.
by the time this airs, who knows?
Roughly,
Who knows?
yeah.
So
yeah.
hi, welcome to another
Hi.
episode of We Only Look Thin. This week, we're going to talk about dignity.
Yeah.
We're going to start with a tip of the week.
Tip of the week. Tao!
Tao! And then we are going to talk about weather and how it relates to weight loss, or how it actually doesn't. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
And then we will finish off with a product of the week.
Pow!
Pow! Donald, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Had a little bit of a weird situation last night. I wasn't expecting you to ask me this question.
I
but
know, this is dignified.
Yeah, this is
I don't know why it's dignified.
It's super dignified. I don't know. We went to an event for our daughter's school last evening, and I talk on this microphone and talk to people constantly about planning and being prepared for things, and I kind of failed a little bit last night. Ended up sticking to my calories, spoiler alert, but the event had pizza and snacks and movie candy, and I thought it was going to be like an hour and a half, and it ended up being like 4 hours, like no joke, like 4 hours.
When has any school event ever been more than we hoped for? My brother was in a performance when he was in
Yeah.
high school. It went 3 hours.
Yeah.
It was the
I
most
think that
painful.
might have been 4 hours, actually.
It was really painful.
I think it might have been 4.
Anyway.
It was horrible.
We actually, both of us, and I did this too, was like, I want to pass the time by eating food because
Yeah,
this is never going to stop.
They had an intermission halfway between, and I was so distraught over how horrible this was that I went outside and I was like, I need a slice of pizza and a Coca-Cola, and I don't do that. And I ended up having 2 Coca-Colas, and luckily I hadn't eaten very many calories before the event. So
we ended up being fine.
Even with that, I was okay, but I had planned on coming home and having like a real dinner and not eating 2 slices of pizza and a Coca-Cola.
Well, but you know what? I feel like in maintenance, it is easy to sometimes not do all the things that we say other people should do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I'll be fine. I'll figure it out.
Right.
It's just one time. But yeah, when you just want to drown your sorrows in food to pass the time during a kid event, boy.
It was a like middle school event, and it drove me to emotionally eat. I mean, which is just.
But
like,
at least we talked about it.
how fragile this whole thing is. Like this whole like weight loss thing could come crashing down at any moment.
Did you feel like you lost a bit of your dignity?
Yes, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
At least it passed. We both stayed in our calorie zones, even though it wasn't the best choices.
It was not
and
the healthiest.
I
of
don't go
dinners.
for Domino's pizza much.
I know if I'm gonna eat pizza too, it's probably not Domino's.
But
no offense to the fine folks at Domino's.
I didn't know how else to pass time, but to eat to make it feel not so painful. So
oh my goodness.
it still happens to us people. We're not perfect. We've talked about that before. But why don't we tiptoe over
Brings us to the tip of the week, though, which is Tao. First of all, tip of the week, and the tip is to have some dignity.
Have
people.
some dignity, which takes us to another recent event. Last week we went out of town for a wedding, and we went to a fantastic sort of farmer's market food stall situation,
Man,
local
it was
to
cool.
the town in which we were. And
Yeah,
so
it was super cool.
Why eat at the Marriott for breakfast when you can cross the street and have local delicacies from farmers?
And we were getting steps.
We were getting steps.
Yeah.
And so this is where dignity comes in. We passed a food stall that had a cake pie. It was vanilla cake and chocolate cake.
Right.
It had an apple pie. It was like the turducken of
Yeah.
sweets.
Turducken of desserts.
It was probably 8 inches tall, maybe 10 inches tall.
Yeah.
Cake that had...
It was a cake. Inside it was an apple pie, and inside that was a pumpkin pie.
And then the apple pie was paired with a vanilla cake. It was enrobed in vanilla cake.
Yeah.
And then the pumpkin pie was enrobed in chocolate cake. And this is dignity. You know where we're going with this, people. Maybe don't get 4 kinds of pie, cake, turducken.
Yeah, believe me, the real me who's inside this person who looks thin, like, wanted to eat not just a slice, but the entire thing.
Well, because it seems also like a dare, right?
Like, it does.
One, you're away. It's a local delicacy. It would be rude not to indulge in the local treat.
Yeah, I mean, the good people of that fair city, would have been insulted if we hadn't.
Right,
but we didn't, actually.
But I think... when I remember driving across country when I moved to be with my husband, Donald. That's you. You're the husband in this story. There was a place in Amarillo, Texas called the Big Texan. And for about 700 miles, I think once we passed Illinois, there were signs for the Big Texan. And it said, if you can eat a 72-ounce steak.
And then you get there and it's just a really large guy.
Yeah, the Big Texan.
The Big Texan.
You can
He's
eat
just standing there with sandwiches.
A 72-ounce steak in 1 hour, it's free. You'd be a fool not to be able to get free food. You can't afford not to.
Try to eat a 72-ounce
It's
steak.
Undignified not to eat 72 ounces of steak. But recently, on the Facebook feeds, I've come across something called a pizookie. And
we did it all for the pizookie. The pizookie.
Speaking of which,
those of you who remember the 90s.
Speaking of Limp Bizkit, Taco Bell also has a biscuit taco.
Biscuit taco. And I know at one point they had a waffle taco, which is insane.
I came across something called the 6-pack, which was like 6 meatball sandwich. Like, if you're finding food that's like a turducken, a pizookie, a biscuit taco, then we found something called the Battleship.
If your taco is wrapped in a Doritos shell.
Like, the fine people of our neighbors to the south are probably not having Dorito tacos. Like, that's an American thing, and you don't need it. I saw something called the Destroyer, which, like, come on now. Let's save that for a ship and not for food.
If it's called the Destroyer, you know that you've lost your dignity if you're trying to eat it.
And there was also, we found something at Pizza Hut in Australia. There was something that was a hot dog stuffed pizza, which the shell...
the crust was stuffed with hot dogs in Australia for some reason.
Yeah.
This is a bit of an Australian-themed episode, by the way.
It is.
More on that later.
There was also, what was there? There was something called the Quadruple Bypass, which was it was a place called...
That sounds really healthy.
The Heart Attack Grill in Arizona.
Like, if you're trying to achieve weight loss goals, this is the kind of thing you should be eating.
This is where dignity... Let's just... The common thread is dignity. Anyway, there was a place called the Heart Attack Grill, and it boasted if you were over 350 pounds, you ate for free.
Wow.
If you ate the 72-ounce burger, which I think was like 8,000 calories. If you ate that, they wheeled you out of the room.
Wow.
In a wheelchair back to your car. Let's simmer down now. Like, every once in a while, like, we didn't have the turducken cake, whatever it was called.
Did we lose our dignity by eating Domino's pizza?
I don't know. Well, maybe a little bit, but it's fine. But, like, an occasional indulgence is fine. But those limited time offers, like, I've been getting these BJ's brew house things, like, the Pizzookie's only around for a little while. Like, you better get it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm fine. I don't need a pizza and a cookie. Like, if it is a combo name, if it is the biscuit and the taco and the hot dog and the pizza, just make a choice.
Yeah.
Like, have a piece of pumpkin pie. Have a piece of apple pie.
Yeah,
but
you don't need to make it a dare.
You don't need to make it a dare. Don't eat something called the Blitz box. Like, there's something called the Blitz box. If it sounds like a football play, either Australian rules football, European football, or American football, if something's called a Blitz, why don't we just save it? We don't need that. So have some dignity. Like, just know that if you're making that kind of a choice, you get what you get. You get heartburn. You get regret. Food isn't a dare. And if you would like to enjoy a food, enjoy it with dignity, not parked behind the Pizza Hut in the dark with the lights out so that nobody can see you. Because I think I would be pretty interested in having a Blitz box in the dark.
Yeah, that's the only way to have a Blitz box, so don't do it. And that is our tip of the week.
Tao, dignity.
Tao, dignity.
So,
and that leads us into our, we're going to segue gently into our main topic of the episode, which we're calling Thunderstruck.
Thunder.
Wow.
I thought you were going to sing with me.
Thunder.
Yeah, we're AC/DC.
Yeah, we didn't practice.
See, I'm the
this
C
in
and you're the
rehearsal.
D because you're, I'm a Catherine and you're a Donald. AC/DC?
AC/DC.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not very good at spelling.
Yeah, again, in rehearsal we didn't go over this. So this is the first in a series of episodes that we're going to name after Australian rock bands and or popular music. We were talking about this morning, and Catherine said, what did you say about Kylie Minogue?
And I said we would do an episode on the locomotion and where we talked about eating food on trains.
And I literally did a spit take. I
He
was drinking
literally
an iced tea,
did. It was one of
and
my proudest moments.
I was either going to choke or spit it everywhere. And
But no.
Yeah.
We're not doing. We're just going to focus on Thunderstruck right now. And
What about the Olivia Newton-John episode we have coming up called "You're the One That I Want," about eating food that we actually want?
where there are so many,
What about the Men at Work episode we have coming up where we talk about our Vegemite sandwich diet?
You know what? I think this episode writes itself. I think we can go on for years and years, but right now we're going to talk about thunder, and actually more specifically, lightning.
Thunder and lightning.
There is no thunder without lightning.
And what do we mean by that? What do we mean is that a lot of people, and look, I've talked about this many times on this show. A lot of people are waiting around for lightning to strike, to be thunderstruck.
Right. So we've talked about it before, but Gretchen Rubin talks about habit change. And over her research, she's found that when women become pregnant, or they find out that they're pregnant, any bad habit that they have, smoking or drinking, they're immediately able to stop the habit because of the implication of what it would do to having a baby. So we wait for moments like that, those lightning bolt moments, to change our habits. And we think that when we're presented with this lightning, this bolt of lightning, oh, I had a heart attack. Oh, I was just diagnosed with diabetes. Oh, I had a life or death situation where I was texting and I was driving and I almost got in an accident. And for a week, let's say, you're like, oh my gosh, this has changed my life. Yeah. I'm never going to do that again.
I'm getting it together now. I'm never going to do that again. My days of distracted driving are behind me.
We wait for these moments to hit us in order to make change. And we think that our weight loss journeys, we see stories where people have had a heart attack or they have a big, life-changing moment where their life flashes before their eyes and they're able to make a big change. They lose 100 pounds, all based on this single moment of clarity that changes their habits. And we are here to tell you that is very dangerous to wait for that lightning.
Yeah, for sure. And I've talked about it a lot, about how I did have one of these lightning strike moments when I got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And, my doctor told me of the things that could happen to me. The two that scared me the most were losing a limb or going blind. But even then, I still was very angry about it and didn't want to do anything. And what actually saved me was my mindset of realizing I didn't have to change everything overnight. But what I haven't really talked about on this show, I don't think, is that in my mid-30s, I had a heart episode. And I was very
An episode? That doesn't sound very extreme.
Well, the doctor was hesitant to actually even call it a heart attack, but it was, basically a heart attack in my mid-30s.
Just when we think we know everything about Donald Weigel, there are many layers, people. You think you've got us figured out?
Yeah.
Guess what? Don had a myocardial infarction?
Yes.
Was that what it was called?
Yeah, sure.
It was like I got a ticket once for turning right from a police officer.
Yeah.
He said very nicely to me, "I'm going to give you a citation," and I was like, "Oh, that's very nice. What a nice thing to do." And then it turns out that was a ticket.
It's the same thing as a ticket.
But it didn't sound that bad because he just called it a citation.
Yeah, but at the time, for a very short time, I was going to get myself together, and I was very much overweight at the time, as I have been most of my adult life.
It was what, in like 2003?
Yeah, 2003, 4 or 5-ish. I can't even remember exactly the year, but it's been a while. And, I did lose weight here and there and felt like I was getting on track. And then, it felt, I was in my mid-30s. I still felt invincible. And
it felt like a blip. It felt
like a blip. It felt fluky. Like even the doctor said it was fluky. Like, my blood work looked good. I was using that excuse still. And I allowed myself for another, 10 plus years to continue my habits of not eating well and not exercising and not getting myself together.
Well, and I think, too, at the time, it seemed like a passing fluke, like you said. And Donald lost, I don't know, I don't even remember, 50,
I've lost
60
over
pounds.
50 pounds 3 different times in
Right.
my life.
So at the time, it was like, a wake-up call. Boy, we really need to get it together. And so Donald lost some weight. He went to his doctor, and, he was doing better. And it seemed, because the doctor didn't say, like, you had a heart attack and you need to get your act together.
Yeah.
It was kind of a vanilla, whitewashed, sort of like, well, it wasn't a heart attack exactly. So
And it might have been a virus that caused it, and, et cetera,
yeah,
et cetera.
But he was
really
very overweight.
And the point is that I shouldn't have needed that to be that lightning thunderstruck moment. I should have seen the signs, and I could have gently instilled these habits years and years before I finally did.
Well, and I think, too, going back to that fear wears off. Like anything that happens, right now seems so important and so urgent. And when Donald had that myocardial infarction, you know why we didn't call the episode myocardial infarction? Because we can't even say it.
No.
But at the time, it seems imminent and urgent. If you are at work and you get, pulled aside by HR and they give you a warning, it feels urgent. You want to get it back together. You don't want to be in trouble. If you're in school and you get suspended, it seems urgent and important, and you're going to be good for a little while. And it's like you just want to get off the truancy list. You want to get off the bad list. You just want to get back to your normal habits.
Yeah, and maybe, you've been sort of not giving your all at work, but then you hear that your company's merging with some other company, and suddenly you want to, really impress everyone, and that might last for a little while. Yep. And then you go back to being the real you.
Yes, that's actually kind of happening to me right now. Way to bring up my life, Donald. Anyway, but we are constantly in situations where it seems urgent to prepare. We've talked about having a power outage over the summer, and it seems suddenly really urgent to get our emergency kit
you want to get
together.
that emergency kit going, but then you have it go a little while without the power being out, and you decide, I think my emergency kit's probably fine.
Right. We have a couple of people in our world who have been diagnosed with fatty liver disease, who have heart disease, who have been diagnosed with diabetes. And we think as a culture that we will, when we are faced with life or death choices, that it will suddenly change who we are at our core, that we will shape up and suddenly become the people we always knew we would be, based on a diagnosis from a doctor, based on some life-threatening situation. And we have seen recently that lightning does not always strike.
No.
That moment that we think that we've been given the diagnosis and now we're going to shape up, it might, for a week or two, you might be super hyper focused on it, super hypersensitive. You make promises to yourself without an actual action plan.
Yeah.
That it's not sustainable.
And sometimes, that moment might come along, or a diminished moment, and maybe we go into it like wholeheartedly, and we just like dive in head first, and you can't sustain that. And I think that what we're basically getting at here is, don't wait for lightning to strike. Start gently developing your habits now. And it's all about just one small habit at a time. If you can get yourself to add just one small habit at a time, eventually you've added 2 small habits at a time. And eventually you're at 3 and 4 and 5. And before you know it, you're doing all of these things that are getting you on the right path. And you've got the rest of your life to do this. So why not start? You don't have to be perfect overnight, but you should do something.
Well, but I also think that we, with a diagnosis, with a serious diagnosis, we think that something is wrong with us if we don't get that lightning bolt strike feeling, which, we think that if we're threatened with, losing our job, or something happening to our kids or our family, that it will be enough to jolt us into being a different person. And I was listening to another podcast recently about a woman who had been an alcoholic and actually had her children taken away from her for a number of years. And she had been working really hard in rehabilitation to get visitation rights and to kind of get back, get her family back. And people would say to her, you don't have your children right now. And like, you're so selfish to still be abusing alcohol. And, aren't your children enough of a reason to get yourself together? This eating disorder, I see it as a disease, as a chronic condition. And sure, eating a Choco Taco is not going to lead to having my children taken away. But like, there is something deep at our core that needs to change in ourselves, for ourselves, based on habits, not on threats. The threat of losing something, the threat of losing a limb, the threat of losing your life. This eating thing is really darn deep. Like, it cuts so deep, and it's so dark and so personal on so many levels.
Yeah.
And threats aren't going to get us where we want to be.
And the me who still wants to do all of the bad habits, who wants to, wake up on a Sunday morning and just go out to breakfast and then take a nap and sit on the couch, like, that me is still in there.
I am still that person. I thought about it this morning.
Yeah, we were talking about it this morning. But, instead we went on a 6-mile walk. And, we didn't become people who go on 6-mile walks on Sunday overnight. We started with doing just a 1,000-step walk, and then a 4,000-step walk, and, building up to it. And we have a night like last night where I was emotionally eating at this event, but I have the habits in place now I know that I can get right back on track. And after I sort of snapped out of the haze of being so miserable at this event, I went right back to being quote unquote me, and I had eaten responsibly all day, and so I didn't end up going over my calorie count even with what I had at the event. And it's little things like that having those things in place and knowing that I was going to get up today and be right back on track makes all of the habit building worth it in the end.
Well, and two, I think, and we've talked about loopholes in the past, I think threats and lightning bolts are loopholes that we're waiting for. Like, it must not be bad enough if this isn't motivating me to lose the weight. I guess if this heart attack wasn't enough, maybe the next one will be the one that will finally get me to where I want to be. Maybe texting while driving and almost getting in an accident wasn't enough. Maybe I need to actually get in a fender bender, and then I'll become the person who is self-disciplined enough to do whatever. Like, habits get you where you want to be. Putting your phone in the trunk when you're driving, if you literally are going to get into accidents when you're driving. Like, I joked the other day, someone said that they had gone to the grocery store and they ate snacks on, that were in the back seat while they were driving home. And I was like, do you think it's an accident that I put my food in the trunk? Because if it is in the back seat, I will eat it. If I have my lunch in the back seat when I'm driving to work, there is a chance I will eat it. So I need to put it out of reach. It's not like, waiting for that self-discipline, waiting for that, I should know better because if I eat it now, then there's not going to be anything later. And
there's probably a part of you that put those things on the back seat because you knew you wanted to eat them.
What am I going to do? Yeah. But, so just think about what are you waiting for? What threat are you waiting for? What life-changing moment? What are you waiting to be caught at doing? What shame do you think you're going to feel by, secret eating in your cupboard and having your kids see you? Like, oh, and that was the moment that I decided. It's like, life isn't that sexy and that easy. Like, what works is habits. And we say it all the time, and it's really boring. But, when I got to the point of finally wanting to lose weight, I thought my pants were going to rip. I'm super glad I didn't wait to actually have my pants rip in front of my coworkers to finally start losing weight. I was like, I am tired of living this life where I feel like I am being threatened by, when I get a gallstone, then I'll change. When I get gout, then I'll change. When I have fatty liver disease, when I get diagnosed with diabetes, that will be the aha moment. That will be the motivator. Life isn't that simple. It's not that easy. It's not that easy to get diagnosed with diabetes, Donald, is it?
And even when you do, it's not necessarily going to be the thing that gets you started. Getting started now is, and not being me, not being somebody who had a heart attack in my early to mid 30s and then waiting until my practically late 40s before getting diabetes and then turning it around. Don't do that.
Well, but Donald, you had good cholesterol, so what's the big deal?
My cholesterol's always been good.
And
I use that as a crutch.
It's all loopholes. So take some responsibility for yourself today. Do not expect to be rescued by some lightning bolt of doom that is
as
going...
lightning bolts do. They rescue people.
But I think it's a real thing. It is not... You're not going to get out of that this easy.
Yeah.
You are not going to be treated to a total... mental shift that's going, it's like, we love A Christmas Carol. A Christmas Carol. Happy almost holiday season, everybody.
Yeah.
You're not going to be visited by 3 ghosts who suddenly get you to change your total disposition and become a new person.
Yeah.
You do not get to be that person.
That sadly does not happen in real life.
You're going to be visited by 3 ghosts. Lucky duck.
The ghost of fast food past, present, and future.
Son, do you know the turducken in the window? The one as big as me?
Why, yes, sir.
Clever boy.
Clever boy. Wonderful boy.
Bring me the turducken. Bring me the pie, apple, cake, pumpkin pie, apple pie, and deliver it to Bob Cratchit. So that's not going to happen. You are not going to be visited by 3 ghosts. You are not going to be struck by lightning. You're not going to be lucky enough to get a gallstone. You're not going to be lucky enough to get gout. Start making changes. But it's true. Don't wait for the Christmas miracle. Don't wait for the holiday miracle to suddenly be a different person. It's like, get your get along shirt. It is you and your choices.
Yeah.
And you need to start making the choices and making the changes.
Yeah, you and your choices are handcuffed together, and you need to start getting along.
And it's not a fluke. Donald had to give up sugar for over a year
Yeah.
to get his diabetes in check. It wasn't, well, you know what? My knitting circle also has candy on Saturdays, so I'm going to still have candy on Saturdays. He had to get serious and he had to get honest. And guess what? He got serious and honest, and he could have Domino's last night, and it wasn't a big deal.
Exactly.
Aside from losing his dignity.
Aside from that. And I think that wraps it up well. As you often do, I think you wrap that up nicely.
Thank you.
I think now it is time to move on to the product of the week.
Pow!
The product of the week this week is something that, and I know that I often overstate things and that we as humans often overstate things, but this product changed my life.
It changed his life.
And
Life changed.
It's going to maybe not sound as exciting as it should be.
It's not going
first.
to sound exciting.
But I found this cold cup. It's a metal, like 32-ounce cold cup, and it has changed my life.
It keeps hot and cold.
Hot and cold. And it is like amazing what they have done with cold cup technology these days.
So basically, it is a metal tumbler that is double walled that keeps beverages chilly. We enjoy beverages, don't we, Donald?
We do, and I enjoy
Calorie-free
my beverages cold.
beverages.
And I oftentimes would find that a roadblock to me enjoying beverages and staying hydrated. I mean, we all know how important hydration is to good health and to losing weight. And I would oftentimes not want to drink a beverage because it was warm or, room temperature. And I fill this thing with ice in the morning, and then there's still ice in it at like 2 in the afternoon.
It's magic.
And I can put some more ice in it around then, and then there's still ice in it like most of the rest of the day.
We are big fans of ice, people. But yeah, I keep a 32-ounce tumbler full of water. Mine has a straw, which I find it gets me to drink more than without. But we can use it with the sparkling waters.
And there are many of them
waters.
out there. I use one that's called Grid Gear is the brand. There are many of them out there that are excellent.
Yeah, but they keep drinks cold. They keep your hands warm. And I put rubber bands around mine. I put 5 rubber bands around my cold cup. And as I drink out of it, I remove a band, and it tells me how much I've had during the day. So it helps keep everything straight.
And that's a bonus tip of the week to go with your product of the
No,
week.
you didn't pay for an extra bonus. You're not getting it. Rewind. Forget you ever heard that.
I'll edit out that extra
Edit
tip
out
of
the
week.
helpful tip. So make it easy to make good choices. We've talked about before the convenience of convenience. 32 ounces, 24 ounces of delicious, refreshing water. It's good for you. It's good for you.
And I will put some links in the show notes to some cups in case you want to get one for yourself.
Yeah, so I also have a hot cup for my coffee because I also enjoy the coffee. It's part of my life. It does the body good. So
it is very much a part of her life.
Yeah, so think about it. Are you relying on words like mammoth and the destroyer when you're making your food choices? Do you feel like it's a dare to be rolled out of a restaurant in a
Taco Loco?
Taco Locos. You don't need it. Just stick to one food category. If you want some apple pie, have some apple pie. Have some dignity. But you don't need the turducken of sweets to get by. Don't wait for lightning. Don't look at the Weather Channel to decide your future.
No.
Don't wait on that.
No, the Weather Channel is not a weight loss advice channel.
Exactly. And drink delicious beverages.
And find us on Facebook. Search for We Only Look Thin.
Find us on Instagram at We Only Look Thin.
You can find us on Twitter at We Only Look Thin.
And you can email us at weonlylookthin@gmail.com.
And please subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And if you could go to iTunes, even if you don't use iTunes, it really helps us out if you could go to iTunes and give us a little rate and a quick review. It could just be something like, these two are amazing.
They are. And we've received such lovely comments and reviews. And
we're appreciative of all the feedback.
Not sure if I like the ones that say that we're really funny more than the ones that say we're inspiring.
I like those myself.
But really, like every single comment, just, we're doing this for the love of the game, and we just so appreciate the feedback and that we're helping you either laugh or lose weight or maintain your weight or all three. If it's a turducken of motivation and comedy, then we are very
we are motivation wrapped in comedy, wrapped inside a turkey
or a tofurkey, depending on who you are. So thank you so much for listening.
And if you pass on the turducken this holiday season, you can remember that Catherine and I are
an inspiration.
The information that you hear on this podcast is for informational purposes only. The hosts are not medical professionals. You should always consult with your doctor, nurse, or other certified health professional before beginning any diet or fitness program.